Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to our beloved lecturer, Dr. Khairul Anwar bin Ibrahim. Today, our group going to present about Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident in 2011 that involving about power system fault and power system protection. My name is Nur Raihana binti Abdul Halim. I'm from BELK S1 Section 2. My matrix number is B0822210066. Okay, I will start with the first part. My part is about fault scenario. What caused the accident at Fukushima in 2011? The cause of the accident was the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, which resulted in electrical grid failure and damaged nearly all of the power plant's backup energy sources. So as you all can see down here, I've already share the places that are affected from the Fukushima Daiichi natural disaster, earthquake, tsunami. You all can see, right?
Yes.
Some of the countries that are affected. This is from the map that I've already captured. Okay, so the next one is following a major earthquake, a 15-meter tsunami disabled the power supply and cooling of 3 Fukushima Daiichi reactors, causing a nuclear accident beginning on 11 March 2011. And all the 3 cores largely melted in the first 3 days. The 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident was triggered by a catastrophic earthquake and subsequent tsunami that disabled the plant's power and cooling systems. This led to core meltdowns in 3 reactors and the release of radioactive. So the materials into the environment resulting into a level 7 nuclear incident. That is the dangerous one, the highest severity level on the international nuclear event scale from the fault scenario. Okay, so we'll look through. The first one is earthquake and tsunami. The Great East Japan earthquake, followed by a massive tsunami, caused significant damage to the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. The tsunami overwhelmed the plant, inundating its power supply and backup generators, which were vital for the operation of cooling system. The second one is loss of power and cooling. The loss of off-site and on-site power crippled the cooling systems that were essential for preventing core meltdowns. Without sufficient cooling, the reactor cores in units 1, 2, and 3 began to overheat and melt. The third one is core meltdowns and containment failures. The overheated reactor core caused fuel rods to melt, leading to the release of hydrogen and other radioactive materials. That also the explosion occurred in units 1, 3, and 4 due to the buildup of hydrogen gas. The fourth one is radioactive release. The containment vessels of units 1, 2, and 3 were breached due to the core meltdowns and subsequent explosions, resulting in the release of radioactive materials into the atmosphere, land, and ocean. The last one you can see here, the point is the fifth one, evacuation and aftermath. People within the 20-kilometer radius of the natural disaster of the plant were evacuated, and those within a 20 to 30-kilometer radius were instructed to take shelter because the accident had a significant impact on the surrounding environment and the health of the public. So the next slide, we will look to the similar incident in the past. There is one similar incident in the past with Fukushima Daiichi. This incident is Chernobyl disaster in 1986. Both are rated as level 7 on the International Nuclear and Radiological Event Scale (INES), the highest level indicating a major accident too. However, the causes and consequences differed significantly. Chernobyl was primarily a result of human error and flawed reactor design, leading to a fire and core meltdown with a large release of radioactive material. Fukushima, on the other hand, was triggered by a massive earthquake and tsunami, which disabled the plant's cooling system, causing fuel damage and a partial meltdown. The comparison within these both incidents are The first one is both the 2011 accident at the Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Energy Facility in Japan and the Chernobyl accident in the former Soviet Union in 1986 require countermeasures to protect the public. This fact netted both accidents the highest rating on the International Nuclear and Radiological Event Scale INES. However, the accidents were starkly different in their cause, the government's response, and health effects. The second one is the accident at Fukushima occurred after a series of tsunami waves struck the facility and disabled systems need to cool the nuclear fuel. The accident at Chernobyl stemmed from a flawed reactor design and human error. It released about 10 times the radiation that was released after the Fukushima accident. So that's all from me.
Hello everyone. My name is Jeevintra Analaki Radhakrishnan. I'm going to talk about safety implication. On March 11, 2011, a massive magnitude 9.0 earthquake struck off the coast of Japan, triggering a powerful tsunami. The wave overwhelmed the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, disabling its power supply and cooling systems. As a result, the reactor overheated, causing core meltdowns in 3 units and releasing radioactive materials into the environment. Although no immediate deaths from radiation were reported, the accident caused widespread evacuation, environmental contamination, and long-term public health and safety concerns. It is considered the most severe nuclear accident since Chernobyl in 1986. This incident exposed several faults in nuclear safety system and practice, leading to major reform and lessons learned in the field of nuclear safety, emergency planning, and disaster preparedness. For the next slide, I have 6 points for the safety implication. For the first point is need for defense in-depth strategy. Nuclear plants must include multiple redundant safety layers to prevent catastrophic failure even if primary systems are compromised. The second point is inadequate natural disaster preparedness. The plan design underestimated the scales of natural disaster. Future facilities must prepare for extreme and unlikely scenarios. The third point, vulnerability of power supply system. Loss of both grid and backup power disable, virtual cooling. Power system must be flood proof and have diverse redundant source. The fourth point, failure of cooling system. Without active cooling, reactor overheat and meltdown. Passive or alternative cooling system should be integrated. Fifth, lack of real-time radiation monitoring. Incomplete radiation data hindered public protection. Real-time, transparent radiation monitoring should be mandatory. Finally, global regulator revolution. The accident triggered safety reviews worldwide. Many countries upgrade their nuclear regulation and safety standard. So that's all.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Wafi Nabil bin Muhammad Lufi. So I would like to talk about societal impact, displacement, health, and trust erosion. So, first of all, the first point is mass displacement, community fragmentation. Firstly, we talk about evacuation. Over 100,000 people permanently or temporarily evacuated due to radiation fears. Secondly, disaster-related death. Over 2,000 indirect death from stress, disruption, and health deterioration among evacuees. And the third is psychosocial trauma, widespread depression, anxiety, like PTSD and psychosomatic symptom among evacuees and workers. The fourth is social stigma, discrimination faced by evacuees in new communities, exacerbating mental health issues. And the second point is eroded trust and shift in nuclear policy. First, loss of public trust. Self erosion of trust in government, regulators, and the nuclear industry, TEPCO, due to perceived failures in safety, communication, and risk assessment. And the second one is anti-nuclear sentiment, dramatic shift in public opinion in Japan, leading to widespread protests and a call for nuclear phase out. The third one is global repercussion, influence nuclear energy policies worldwide, with some countries like Germany accelerating phase out. The fourth one is a debate on energy versus safety, intensify the global discussion on balancing energy security with paramount nuclear safety. The next slide, which is I would like to talk about cultural impact, like identity, livelihoods, and legacy. This is the main point that can we discussing. The first of all is a disruption of cultural identity and livelihoods. First is traditional practices, cessation of all server, disruption of local agricultural, fishing, and cultural tradition in like in Soma Namoy. And the third one is heritage and landscape, creation of difficult to return zones, leaving ghost towns and a permanent scar on the landscape, challenging Japan's deep connection to its land. Economic devastation, long-term damage to local economies from bans, reduced demand for regional produce, and decline in tourism. So the second point is re-evaluation of safety culture and future lesson. First, we can see about the critique of safety culture, expose deficiencies in Japan's regulatory oversight and corporate culture within in a nuclear industry, lack of question authority. Second one is enhanced preparedness, led to global reviews and strengthening of nuclear safety standards, including improved disaster preparedness, and integration of extreme natural hazard risks in planet design. Third one is focus on human element. Highlighted the critical importance of addressing the long-term mental health and social well-being in disaster response planning and recovery. And the last one for my point is generational impact. The accident and its aftermath continue to shape the life of those affected and influence public discourse on energy and risk for future generations. That's all from me.
Yeah, Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Zulfakar bin Abdul Rahim. I would like to talk about the legal and regulatory compliance in Fukushima case. In the case of Fukushima, how well Japan's nuclear industry follows safety law and how strong the rule. So what went wrong? Compliance's failure at Fukushima. The first is about weak enforcement of safety law. TEPCO, stand for Tokyo Electric Power Company, was not forced to upgrade safety system, even though risks were known. No legal action was taken despite warning from experts. For the second, is outdated safety standard. Law and rule did not consider extreme natural disaster like a 50-meter tsunami. The plan was designed for much smaller threat, about 5.7 meter. For the third is non-independent regulator. The safety regulator at the time, NISA, was under the Ministry of Economy, which also promote nuclear energy. This created a conflict of interest. The same ministry promote and regulated nuclear power. For the fourth, lack of mandatory backup system. There was no law requiring flood-proof backup power, which led to the loss of reactor cooling. And the last one is poor emergency preparedness rule. Emergency plan were not legally required to handle large-scale disaster. Communication and evacuation process were disorganized. This is the table of reform in power protection compliances. For the first row is the error, the row, the backup power, power protection law, emergency response system, and regulatory body. Before the 2011, the backup power is one level flood prone. After the Fukushima case, they upgrade the multiple level protect from natural disaster. Power protection law is before the Fukushima is weak enforcement. After that, it upgrade to strong and independent, not under the any of ministry that promote the nuclear. For the third is emergency response system. Before the Fukushima case, not required for total backup. After that, legally require long duration emergency system. And before 2011, regulatory body not independent. And after the case, Fukushima, NRA, which is nuclear regulatory, create. It was strict, technical, and independent. So the Fukushima incident revealed major legal and regulatory failure. It taught the world that strict, independent, and up-to-date safety law are essential to protect people and the environment, especially in high-risk industry like nuclear power. So that's all from me.
Okay, I believe that all of you all understand all the explanations about Fukushima Daiichi in Japan incident, right?
I agree.
Okay, so from overall, I like to give the lesson that I learned. How it is highly essential to develop robust electrical systems that could sustain severe environmental conditions and unexpected failures. Because we didn't expect this was a natural disaster, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
in my future life as a future electrical engineer, I will ensure that the safety, ethical responsibility, and proactive risk management is incorporated in all facets of my work to avert such a disaster, so that I hope this type of incident doesn't repeat again.
I would like to tell improve evacuation planning and infrastructure. For the lesson for this, communities near nuclear plants must have detailed evacuation routes, transportation support, and public training.
For me, it demonstrates that the recovery from a complex disaster, especially one involving nuclear contamination, is not merely about physical construction, but demands a holistic approach that addresses that deep-seated psychological, social, and cultural wounds. So that the enduring challenging faced by Fukushima served as a powerful reminder of the profound and interconnected impacts of catastrophic events.
The lesson that we taught from the Fukushima case is the organizer that handle the nuclear is must be independent, because from the case of Fukushima that happened is because it's is under the pre-ministry.
Okay, that's all from our team. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.